Nation, what's going on this week? We've got an exciting guest for you. Still on her whirlwind tour of Europe, we have Miss Abby Lampe. I think I said that right?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
You
okay,
did.
great. So, for those that don't know, and if you're an NC State person, you should know the story by now. She is the queen of cheese. I've done some crazy things in my life, but I think this one tops it. She ran down or attempted to run down a hill for some cheese. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. But Abby, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. So we just want to talk a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We know you're a 2022 graduate of NC State. I believe something to do with engineering. It sounded really complicated when I heard about it in one of the interviews. So, if you want to share a little bit about that, go for it.
Yeah, I just graduated in May. I studied industrial and systems engineering, which, if you don't know about what it is, it's about optimization, making things most efficiently, and just streamlining processes.
So I work in the government in IT, and we are always trying to make processes better. So I totally know what you're getting at there.
Yeah.
Um, a little bit, just talked a little bit about your life at NC State. So we do a lot of sports here. So we're going to count cheese racing as a sport. It's not something that the NCAA sanctions,
Yeah,
but we're gonna
it
count
counts.
it. Um,
Okay.
you're an athlete. But tell us a little bit about your time at NC State. Were you involved in like any kind of club sports? Did you go to a lot of the activities for athletics? Like, just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so during my 4 years, I went to a lot of sporting events. I love sports. I grew up playing a lot of sports, so I played volleyball, basketball, and soccer. So I joined as many intramurals as I could. I'm actually a two-time intramural champion from NC State, but I
Let's
Wow.
guess
go.
being
Let's go.
being a cheese rolling world champion beats that just by a little though.
A little bit, yeah.
So I take pride in my NC State Dry Fit intramural championship shirts that I have.
Nice.
But yeah, I did basketball. I played beach volleyball for IM and soccer, flag football, kickball. So you name it, I played it.
So you're like a five-tool athlete.
Maybe, yeah, if you want to put it that way.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So I guess growing up, did you have a particular favorite sport that you really enjoyed, and did you kind of carry that over at state, as far as like going to any of those games, or like how do you enjoy your sports?
I love watching and playing. So I've played soccer since I was probably three. I picked up volleyball and basketball a little later in life, in middle and high school. And in high school, we actually won uh, our conference in both um, basketball and soccer, which was a great honor. I went to a small charter school, so it wasn't that impressive. But I played it, and I wanted to pursue intramural at NC State, and then going to NC State games, that was so fun. The women's basketball team, absolutely amazing. I lived in the same apartment building as a few of them this year, and I got to see them. And every single time I saw them, I would be saying, "Congratulations, you played a great game." It was amazing. But yeah, so I grew up playing those sports. I went to a lot of sporting events at NC State and followed up with all the sporting events too. Or we actually won a cross country. We were
Hmm.
national champs in women's
Hmm.
cross country. So
Yep.
I love like I remember in high school I would like be watching YouTube mindlessly and saw Caitlin Tui running like a 4 minute and something mile and in high school, and I was like, wow, that is incredible. And then she came to NC State, so I'm just proud to represent the pack in some sort of sporting event, even if you would call cheese racing a sporting event.
No,
Absolutely.
it's 100%. And you talk about her mile. I live in Northern Virginia. I can't even drive a mile in 4 minutes. So to run it is very impressive.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so at your time at state, what was what's the most memorable athletic event that you attended? Like the one that really sticks out in
I
your
think
mind?
I think this year it has to be the both rushing the football field for both NC State beating
Yeah.
Clemson and
Mhm.
UNC. I think I took more joy in the UNC game because they were down. We beat them, and there was like two minutes left, and we were down by like 8 points. Like, how can they let us do that? It was too easy.
Yeah, we talked before. That's a very memorable game for me
Yeah.
and my leg. I don't think we'll ever forget that night.
Ever.
It's definitely changed my outlook on state athletics. So, yeah, that's a great one for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, and unfortunately, so when NC State beat Duke in basketball, 2020, I think it was,
mhm.
I was in England studying abroad, and so I had the biggest FOMO. I saw all those posts, and I wanted to be there so bad.
Oh, it was a great
Yeah.
night.
I'm
It
glad
was.
you got to experience it.
Well, and that's just it, right? Like, not every class gets to have that moment, right, where they get
Yeah.
to storm a court or storm a field. So,
Yeah,
at least they came through for you on your senior
and
year,
we
and you got two
twice,
experiences.
twice
Yeah.
in one
Yeah.
season, which is
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
unbelievable.
that's insane. I don't think I've ever seen that before. So
I know.
I love living through that.
So
And then going,
I was gonna
sorry, you
say
no,
were
go ahead.
I,
and then going. Oh, sorry, you go.
I was gonna say
It's all good.
I never got to storm the field in football, but twice got to do it against Duke in basketball when I was there. So it's definitely an experience.
Yeah.
Before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flightlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flightlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flightlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flightlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out.
So, so Abby, you just mentioned your time abroad. I know you, and that'll probably lead us into the story, right, of this. So I've caught a couple of your interviews. I caught the one you did with Pack Pride, and then the one you did with Marty Smith. And before we got on air, you'd said you lost count. I think you hit 20. So, but you mentioned that 2020 was kind of cut short for you because I think you had planned to do this in 2020, but
Yeah.
COVID cut your year abroad short. So, talk to us a little bit about your time in England pre-COVID. Like, how was that for you as it
Yeah,
ties
so
to
it was
your
great.
time?
I studied in the University of Surrey. I was pursuing a business minor, which I ended up dropping this year because I wanted to graduate on time. Anyway, Surrey was great. Going to England for the first time, I think there's something to be said about Americans and the British culture. So we
Mm-hmm.
kind of obsess about like their accent and like making fun of their accent and how they say water bottle, but then they come at us with more painful jokes that are too deep. Um,
Yeah,
but
yeah. They
so
make fun of our southern accents or whatever, but they are the ones that have
Right.
the accent. Like, we're normal.
exactly, exactly. So I really enjoyed my time over there. I got to travel a little bit. I got to see the English countryside a little bit there too. But it was too short. Yeah, I remember one of my last days in England before I got sent home. We planned a trip to London and we were going to see
Mhm.
Hamilton, which I think is
Yeah.
so ironic to see Hamilton in London.
That is
Yeah.
the ultimate irony.
It's so ironic. But we were there, and the Prime Minister Boris Johnson had just made an announcement, like maybe 30 minutes before we got there, and we were outside of the theater, and the cast members were out. So I was so excited. I'm a Hamilton fan. I love music, and they were saying, "Oh, are you here for the Hamilton like play?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm so excited for it." They're like, "Oh, unfortunately, it's been canceled. Boris Johnson just made an announcement saying that all bars and
Mm.
unnecessary businesses like are closed in the evening." And I was just heartbroken. So, just coming back to England, it was really a comforting feeling. I think England is kind of similar to the South. They're hospitable, they're nice. I had some trouble at the airport, and people were just asking me if I was okay, and I was like, "Yes." I thought I lost my passport,
Oh
but I
no.
found it.
I actually had that scare once too. That's a surreal feeling. Yeah, that's really disappointing that you didn't get to. I mean, so I love theater and music as well, and I've been to London a couple of times, and I got to see Wicked and Rock of Ages at West End, and it's something to be told. London is a fun city.
It is, yeah. It's
And
beautiful.
it is, and I bet the countryside was probably even better.
So many cows.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Even more
yeah,
than
so
where
many
I'm
cows.
from. And there's a lot of cows where I'm
cheese-
from.
Well, we
I
need
was
those
gonna
cows
say,
to
the
make that
cheese has gotta
cheese,
come
right?
from somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So with that being said, so your 2020 trip gets canceled. You come back to the States and you finish your schooling and graduate this year. And I know from, again, your interviews that you come from a deep line of NC State lineage in your family. Just talk to us a little bit about that, because there were some interesting points that you brought up.
Yeah, so most of my siblings went to NC State. I come from a large family, so I have 7 other siblings, and I think half of them went to NC State,
Wow.
which is incredible. My parents met at NC State. My grandfather studied there, and then my great grandfather was the dean of engineering. So I come from a very long line of Wolfpackers. I bleed red. I've grown up a Wolfpack fan, and I just love supporting them. I love wearing my NC State red. So coming to represent England, or coming to England to represent NC State, I had to wear my NC State sweatshirt.
So I wanted to talk about that when we get to the story. So I got one more question for you on this part 1 here. So you graduate this year, and it sounds to me like you got the ultimate gift for a graduation gift. So you got you got to, in some ways, make up for your lost time in Europe.
Yeah.
And go on this ultimate trip. Just talk to us a little bit about it. So it sounded like you started in England, and I think now you're in Spain. Is that? Do I have that?
No,
correct?
I actually flew to Spain first, May 20th. I flew to Spain, and then I've been in here. I've taken some trips to the coast of Spain, which has been really cool. Swam in the Mediterranean Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Then flew to Bristol to catch a train to Gloucester on Friday, and I spent this trip to England that I just took was just for the cheese race. I just wanted to scout it out, and so I took a train there, spent a few days there, and then flew out on Monday. My flight got delayed like 3 hours or 4 hours on Monday, so it was brutal. And then coming to Tuesday, I only got 2 hours of sleep, and then I had to do a ton of interviews yesterday. So I'm happy to be back. I have some plans to go to Portugal. I'm going back to England actually next week to see Billie Eilish and Harry Styles in concert, because
That'll be a
Whoa.
big concert.
I mean, as a Gen Z, I love these artists.
Oh,
Of course.
Of course. And then I'm going to Greece in July, which hinders me from competing or even going to the running of the bulls.
So you stole one of my questions. You stole one of my questions for the next segment. That's all right. Well, I will tell you, I may not look like it now, but I ran with the bulls 10 years ago.
Wow. Did you get injured?
Yeah. No, I kept them. They were I could see them. I was like, okay, I see you.
So
all right,
you
I'm still running.
Run with bulls then?
It's faster.
I was in the crowd. That counts.
That's all that matters.
I was strategic. I was very strategic in my selection of not getting that close with them.
Good.
Funny story. We actually went the first day. We actually got kicked out. They wouldn't let us run. The police don't like Americans doing it for fear of getting hurt. I'm sure maybe similar to the cheese. Yeah, so we had to sneak. So they don't even care. They just go for it, right?
Yeah.
So what happened is we worked our way deeper into the crowd, so we couldn't get picked out and be seen. And then we actually dressed the part, like we wore the white with the red bandana, so we kind of blended in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I wanted to ask what was going to be next after the cheese race, but to answer that question, listeners are going to have to tune in for part 2 when we get into the cheese race. Okay. So Wolfpack fans, come on back for part 2, and we'll see you real soon.